Mike Smith getting all from West Coast as he clings to the lead from Gunnabara. IREP is third on the inside. Cameron is fourth. It is West Coast, and he keeps on rolling. And West Coast goes wire to wire in the Travers.
Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. And Woodbine Racetrack, pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Monday morning. We wrap up another week and we're on the verge of Travers Week, which kicks off on Wednesday. The draw tomorrow night downtown, but a beautiful way to end up this week. Sunny, temperatures are comfortable, the humidity has broken, nice little breeze here. Set it on the handicapper's report. If you're planning to come, you'll have a great day at the racetrack, and don't forget the Low Rollers contest. Again, I had a little article in the Saratogian. I was mentioned in the article. I've been a proponent, been kind of playing every weekend this year, every Sunday and Monday, and I'm still chasing. So I'll be back this afternoon to take my shot at the Low Rollers. But as I say, a beautiful day to come to the track this afternoon. We'll talk about all of that coming up towards the end of the program. Michael Imperio, owner, got some nice New York bred stakes winners up here at Saratoga so far this meet. We'll hit on that and more with Michael. Larry Colmus, New York Racing Association announcer. We'll be joined by him a little bit later on. But top of the show, always happy to get an annual visit from Gabby Gaudet from the New York Racing Association. Gabby, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
You're the second family member to jump in. We had Lacey earlier as well.
I know. I did actually get to see that interview. That was great. And, really, really exciting day on Friday when Mesotherm got her first victory up here at Saratoga. So, that was really, really exciting and a proud moment for our family.
Yeah, it's you guys are based down in Maryland, but I know Lacey, second summer, she's brought some horses up here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was up here last year with a couple, and this year she got about 6 back there. But, Mom and her have been flip-flopping and going up and down the East Coast all summer. It's funny, growing up in a racing family, especially during the summers, because it's always madness. Lacey's been driving up here. My mom had to go to Monmouth on Saturday. It's a lot.
And I'll let you touch on this as well. We talked a little bit about it with Lacey, but again, you guys were based down in Maryland. Your dad, a longtime trainer down there, passed away earlier this year, and condolences on that. But your mom obviously involved, and now your sister trains, and you're on the media side. But you guys were based in Maryland. I'll give you a chance. We talked to Dave Rodman occasionally on the show, and it just seems like Maryland has really made a nice resurgence in the past year and a half or 2 years, where there was a period where it was a little dicey, but the past couple of years they've really come back. And it's important because they're a real player on the American racing scene.
Of course. I guess it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Things were looking very, very bleak. But, hats off to even the Stronach Group and Tim Ritvo. He really spearheaded this and getting things to improve in Maryland. Lots of renovations, lots of changes in terms of, the purse structure and everything, and giving horsemen more incentive to run. The turf course, as always, is wonderful there. So, at least we have that during the spring, summer, and fall months, which is very important. So, huge resurgence in Maryland racing, and it's good to see because, even though I've kind of left that area, got a lot of families still left there.
Yeah, and as I say, it's just they're an important component of the American racing scene. They have been historically, and it's great that Maryland has kind of resurged. But as you say, now you're up here at NYRA, part of the media team. And before we get to some of the races to talk about and whatnot, let's talk a little bit about that because I say whenever I get a NYRA person in here, I think the MSG Fox show is really a great addition to the landscape because it's on a sports channel hitting, I think, a broader sports audience, some of whom may not have been keyed into racing, but for 2 or 3 hours afternoon, it's really a great product that I think does the industry a service, not just in showing the races, but the features are also really intriguing. If you're a racing fan, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. So again, it's a great addition to the media landscape for racing.
Thank you, and I know I'm speaking on behalf of everybody that we really, really appreciate those sentiments and comments because it's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and not by no means does the buck just stop with the talent. We've got grade A talent on the show, everybody who works just so hard, but it's also everybody behind the scenes. We have wonderful cameramen, we have wonderful producers, we've got wonderful audio people in the truck. We just have wonderful crew assembled, and that's what makes this show possible every single day, because as you said, it's 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours. The other day we had a 4.5-hour show. So, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's not just the 2 hours, this is the 3 hours, the 4 hours. It's, preparing for a show like that too, which takes hours and hours. I mean, I get emails from the producers at 2 o'clock in the morning with the rundown. So it takes a lot of work from a lot of people, and we're just so happy and thrilled to, hear people compliment the show, because I know all of us really care a lot about it, and I think it's extremely successful, and it's fun to do.
Yeah, being a guy who for years owned my own television production company, I know what goes into that kind of thing. And now on the live side, I just sit here, and it can be nerve-wracking, but you guys are running around. I mean, you and Maggie from the paddock to horseback maybe, or on the front side interviewing you from the paddock to the front side. And yesterday you were trying to scout down people I saw and find a box where an owner wants to do a pre-race interview. Does the pre-production include, here are the horses in particular, and here's kind of who we're going to focus on? How much of that pre-production, how sophisticated is that pre-production?
We try to make it as sophisticated as possible. Unfortunately, it is racing, and sometimes storylines change, horses scratch, things come up. But we do try to plan as best as we can. A lot of the time, I know Maggie has her own set of, planning and scheduling going into her preparation. But for me, it's really, okay, who is the most interesting horse in this race? It doesn't necessarily have to be the favorite. Or who are the most interesting connections that are surrounding this horse? Where's the story? Where's the storyline? Because most of the time, especially on the weekends, I handle the reporter and interviewer role. So, you really want to get to those connections that aren't maybe the top 5 in the country. And anytime that someone runs a horse at Saratoga, especially more low profile connections, it's a really exciting moment. Yeah. And I think that that's even more important than just talking about the favorite sometimes in races.
And as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, you got the perfect background for that, because started Saratoga Special, another one of the prominent Saratoga Special graduates. Always like to give the Clancy boys a little push.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that's where that comes from, because I can remember Sean and Joe Clancy telling me my first summer that I was up here, go for the story, go for the story. So that's what I try to do, at least when I'm in that particular role. That's what I try to do when I'm on the show.
And as I say, you guys do a great job, and again, I know the amount of work that goes into it, and so for folks who are watching and appreciating what you see through the TV screen, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Let's before we get to today, let's go back and go to last weekend in the Alabama. I'd love to get your comments. We'll watch the stretch run here. Eskimo Kisses, a nice late run, and had Harold Lerner on yesterday, and he was very nice, and has a horse in the feature today that I think has a big shot. But I mentioned got into the horse racing game by hitting a huge lottery prize, and here he is now winning a Grade 1 at Saratoga. And you could tell from talking to him how much it meant to him as kind of a lifelong horse player. But Talk Vuv to me goes out and sets the fast early fractions and pays the price, winding up 4th in here. The favorite Midnight Bijou is 3rd, but boy, it was a nice late run from Eskimo Kisses.
Absolutely. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this horse to run in the Alabama, because she is that proverbial Alabama type of horse. I think that there were a lot of questions with Talk Vuv to me, even Midnight Bijou, in terms of, maybe distance limitations and even class. There was that question too. And Eskimo Kisses, she looks like she could run all day long, and she's also danced a lot of dances against the top 3-year-old fillies in the country throughout the year. She just needed a good trip, the right circumstances, and she got all of that in the Alabama. And I actually talked to Kenny McPeak after the race, and it was an interesting move where she kind of ducked into the rail at the quarter pole, and Kenny said, yeah, that's the way she likes to run. She likes to run inside of horses, which is really unusual sometimes, but he knows the filly, he knows how she likes to be ridden, and it was just a perfect scenario for her.
Yeah, that's what Harold said. The scenario worked out perfectly, and they were able to save the ground and get that run up the towards the inside, and it was a nice run from Eskimo Kisses. It seems like Monomoy Girl kind of is the leader in the clubhouse and tough to run down now, but Eskimo Kisses and Talk Vuv to Me, Midnight Bijou, and this weekend Wonder Godot coming up in the Travers add some nice storylines to that 3-year-old filly division. And speaking of Wonder Godot, I want to talk a little Travers and what your thoughts are coming up. Obviously, Justify is clearly the Eclipse winner. You get a Triple Crown, you're the Eclipse winner, but now goes to the sidelines. And the rest of the class is now trying to define themselves, which leads to a really nice Travers coming up on the weekend. I called the replay of the Jim Dandy. It's going to be number 2, Tenfold, getting it done over Flame Away. Vina Rosso makes a great late run. I don't think handled the track early, but the late run offers maybe some optimism for Vina Rosso fans coming up this Saturday. But you talk about storylines. Catholic Boy, Turf, Dirt, they're going to take their shot. Wonder Godot, the filly, is going to be in here. Gronkowski, who came over and ran well in the Belmont Stakes. King Zachary, an up-and-comer. Mendelssohn. Good Magic seems likely to be the favorite. But again, lots of nice storylines. It's early, but what are your thoughts on the Travers?
It is early, and we'll see. You know, I think things definitely changed with the defection with Hofburg as well, making things even more challenging. And right now, I would say, in terms of recent 3-year-old races leading into the Travers, Good Magic has impressed me the most. But he's going to have to continue to impress me. I mean, or all of us, and to prove that, you know, he can get these added distances as the road keeps continuing on. You know, Wonder Godot, she does seem like this is the perfect distance for her, and I know that that's what Mark had in mind, also giving her an extra week since her last race. You know, there are plenty. Gronkowski is interesting, obviously, but you know, he hasn't run since the Belmont, which could be a little bit of a concern. Vino Rosso, I have been his fan since a long time ago, Tampa, even I think maybe before the Sam Davis. So it's been a long road for me with Vino Rosso, but you know, maybe he is kind of like the Eskimo Kisses in here, where they're trying to build up to this crescendo in the Travers.
And that late run he made in the, I liked him in the Jim Dandy, and so about the last 70 yards I thought, but just could not get there. But that, as I say, leaves some optimism maybe for the Travers. I think it's going to be a fun race because with Justify on the sideline, again, given the way the class is right now, they're trying to define themselves. So a nice, big, competitive field.
It's funny because
looking forward to it.
The boys, at least, in the 3-year-old division started off so strong at the beginning of the year. And now it's like this filly division is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So it's funny every single year, obviously, but especially this year, how things have kind of changed.
Yeah, flip-flop. And yet before we go, you mentioned the fillies, Monomoy Girl and the Coaching Club, American Oaks, Diversify and Mind Your Biscuits, and the Whitney Imperial Hint in the sprint earlier. I think, you know, the weather has been an overwhelming story, but I think when you look at the racing so far, we've seen some pretty good horses.
I love Imperial Hint and Diversify. How cool are those horses? I mean, even Mind Your Biscuits. I loved the top 3 finishers. You Diversify, Mind Your Biscuits, and Discreet Lover. I mean, those are such solid horses, and you love to see them race continually, you know, even at this stage of the game. So yeah, it's going to be, so far we've seen some incredible performances. We've seen some really impressive performances from these 2-year-olds, whether it's Dirt or
Just
Turf.
the last weekend there have been some nice 2-year-old performances.
The Belmont horse that won, Mucho, I think. And so there's a lot going on here, as per usual at Saratoga. But excited to get to Travers Week, and of course we'll probably see even nicer 2-year-olds on Travers Day, and then
huge stakes card as well.
Stakes card too.
All right, let's get to some thoughts for this afternoon. Let's take a look at some of the action on a Monday. We'll take a look at that late pick 3, 7th race today. Optional claimers going 5.5 on the grass. I went 10, 9, 5, and 4. I put Jumbie Bay on top with Miss Gossip underneath and Touch of Bling. But as we handicapped earlier on the Handicappers Report, I said this to me is a very competitive event, and I kind of tepidly go for Jumbie Bay. What did you think in race 7?
Yeah, I thought this was tough. I mean, last time out they put the blinkers on, back on Jumbie Bay. To me, she just looks like they're just trying to figure her out. They stretched her out 2 starts back. She showed speed and faded. They put the blinkers on. They took them off. Now they're putting them back on. And now she draws that outside post position. So I'm a little apprehensive on her. Meanwhile, the 6 Quality Time I actually picked in here. I think she's got kind of that positional speed type of running style. She doesn't necessarily need the lead. She could stalk too. Maybe it wasn't even her preferred running style last time out, but she took pressure throughout, and it kind of set up for that second flight type of horse. on top of that, I've seen stats over and over again. Christophe Clement with his turf sprinter, second off the layoff, or at least a significant layoff, and he does so well with that move. So I'm leaning on her a little bit in here. I think she's got some quality. I'll probably use Black Canary. She still has a lot to prove as the favorite in here, though, and I'll dabble with the 9 Miss Gossip. Didn't really like her last race, but it was a tough race. But her races 2 back at Belmont were really good. Yeah. So I don't know what to make of her.
I threw her right in the mix, too, on that one, 2 back. All right, the feature today is the Evan Shipman. The aforementioned Harold Lerner has pat on the back in here, and I used that one on top. I thought pat on the back, given the tussle that he gave to Diversify 2 back, and then the follow-up last time in the Saginaw Downstate just made him the one to have to get by. But I think it's a competitive group. Why not? I put underneath Control Group and Twisted Tom in the mix for me as well, and I think you can make arguments for any of those 3 also. But off the last couple of starts, for me, it was pat on the back. I went 7, 6, 1, and 3. What did you think?
And pat on the back is definitely in form, and you just look at his class lines, and they are very good. I was a little bit, I guess, suspect of him last time out, even getting more distance from the mile, but he got a beautiful trip, and he showed his class that day too. However, today, he's going 2 turns, and I think that would be the concern for me. Last year he went 9 furlongs in the Albany, and he showed speed and faded a little bit and set up for Twisted Tom. So that's probably going to be the biggest question for me with him. Control Group, he's got a wonderful post position for his running style. I think Irad's going to be aggressive and try to just blow the field off their feet. So Control Group is who I prefer, but I would get 2 down on Twisted Tom. I know he was really disappointing in the Saginaw. But if you look at his races last year, he kind of built up his performances, and I almost wonder if he's just not that type of a horse that gives his best race, maybe off of significant time. I know he came back from an August to October, but that was just a couple of months. He looks like a horse that just builds off of his performances, so maybe that was a decent starting point for him, and he'll improve today. But I think they're all going to have to catch Control Group on the front end.
Yeah, I didn't quite know what to do with Twisted Tom. Made the bottom of my mix, but that's the one that scares me, as you say, kind of on a potential to get a nice wake-up and rebound in here. All right, let's go to the finale this afternoon. Race number 9, State-bred Maiden Claimers, going 9 furlongs on the grass. I went 6-12. I went 10-6-5, and I was giving my dirt picks there. So I went 10-6-5 and 1. The number 10, Lemon Blitz. Lemon Blitz to me looks good. You draw a line through that last race, and you get to the races just before. And I think looking at the rest of this field, to me, Lemon Blitz kind of stands out in here. The number 6 horse, though, clearly they paid a lot of money and debuted for a much lesser price and come back for that same 40 today. And I just thought the change of distance and surface was an interesting little scenario for the Pletcher runner. Millie's Party Boy making the class drop. So for me, it was 10-6-5 and 1. What did you see?
Yeah, those horses make sense. Quarenta, the 6, by 40 tails out of a mare who was 1 for 20 on the turf. But, and oddly enough, she had all her races on the turf. Her foals have been better on the dirt. So I thought it made sense that this horse did debut on the dirt. But the distance, I think, is the kicker for this horse. That'll definitely improve him. I like the race that both Lemon Blitz and Time Expired are coming out of, that Catch a Cab race, because Catch a Cab reeled off 3 victories against New York bred, so thought I was actually pretty decent. I'm going with the better price of the 2, Time Expired. Hate the post position, but there's not a lot of speed to his inside, so I'm hoping Mike Leslie gets a aggressive move. I don't necessarily think he needs the lead, and I think he ran just as well, if not better, than Lemon Blitz, considering how the race was run, and he was kind of in the pace. Last time out going the mile, it was a fast pace. He chased it, and he just collapsed. So, like I said, there's not a lot of speed in here, and with that outside post position, you hope he can save a little bit of ground. But when you get value like that, you know that the 10 Lemon Blitz is going to be bet. And Time Expired, I think, will get lost in the mix a little bit. So I'll probably look at those 2 mostly.
I like it. 12-1 for the Get Out horse.
Yeah.
There we go. Very good.
Money for Tuesday, the day off.
There's forward thinking. Gabby, we appreciate the visit. As always, like it when you come over here during the summer, and we were talking before we came on the air. Good luck going forward. Wedding plans shortly after the meet. So the meet wraps up in like a week later.
Yeah, juggling, Saratoga and wedding planning. seems
it's
a
tough
little,
enough when we're just handicapped.
Surreal. Yeah, there have been moments where I'm like talking to Norm and I'm like, yeah, this wasn't our best idea, but we're going to get through it. We're really, really excited.
Of course, trainer Norm Cassie. So, again, good luck with that going forward as well. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Larry Collmus is in the house. We'll talk a little New York Racing Association announcing and much, much more. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need is right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Chain, living it up, living it up, living it up. Pin sagging gold grills, living, trilling the cut, trilling the cut.
Now it's a global series. The best racers from all over the world, the best trainers, the best jockeys.
You can get a free entry into the Breeders' Cup, and everybody wants to run in a Breeders' Cup race.
You get your travel expenses paid for the Breeders' Cup. Automatic berth takes a lot of pressure off.
If we're considering two different races and one was a win and you're in and one was not, that would be the tiebreaker.
It's probably the best thing that's happened to racing in the last 10 years.
Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
Hofberg comes on the scene, and Gronkowski has cut the corner, and they're into the stretch, and Justify comes roaring home to a raucous Belmont Park with 1 furlong to run. Gronkowski and Hofberg trying to run him down. Vino Rosso is fourth, a 16th to go. Justify is still there. Justify from Gronkowski. He's just perfect, and now he's just immortal. Justify is the 13th Triple Crown winner. Gronkowski was second, Hofberg was third, and Vino Rosso was fourth. Justify has done it.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Monday morning. As you saw the call there, Triple Crown call given by Larry Collmus. The Belmont Stakes this year and Justify. Happy to be joined by Larry Collmus. Good morning.
Hey, Seth. How are you?
Very good. And again, we saw the call there of this year's Triple Crown. Talk a little bit about that. Your second Triple Crown call after American Pharoah a couple of years ago. But how special was this one?
Yeah, it was pretty special. I mean, anytime you have the opportunity to call a Triple Crown, you know, we had that 37-year wait with Pharoah, and like, okay, finally got to call a Triple Crown. Well, it's not going to happen again, right? And it did. It did. Like, all of a sudden, you get a chance to do it one more time. It was a little different. It was only 3 years this time, but you know what? Early in the day, you had this feeling of, okay, it's just not quite the same atmosphere. But as the day went on, and I remember saying after the race before, coming up next is the 150th running of the Belmont Stakes, and you just heard the crowd go, oh. It's like, okay, here we go. Yeah. You guys are alive. You're ready. And it was something else.
I was down on the apron watching that because we were down doing some broadcasting Belmont Stakes Day. And I don't know whether it was as sustained, because American Pharoah, it went on. Right, but it was as loud. And did you get that up in the booth? I mean, as they came down the stretch, it's just a cacophony of noise down there on the 8th.
I am 90 feet up, way up there, fully glass enclosed, but yeah. You know, I got the sound. It was there, and it was awesome. You know, that's what it's all about. It's what we hope to be able to, you know, do. And the only thing that might be better than that is just here every day at Saratoga. You know, every day is great here.
Again, a couple of Triple Crown calls, and as I was driving in this morning, I started thinking, you do the Triple Crown races for NBC. Do you change, or do they ask you to change maybe your TV call as compared to a standard race call? Because you are playing to a different audience, but what you give is not so esoteric that you would really have to change it. But do you do anything differently for the big TV calls?
Maybe a little bit. I think if there is any, it's subtle. You know, I started one thing, and people ask me about it all the time, and it started as an NBC thing. I started doing the fractions in the hundredths of a second, and I've continued to do that. And people say, why do you do that? And it's because that's what they see.
Yeah.
And it just matches the graphics. Yeah. And it's like, why does he say 1/5 when it's 0.36? So I'm like, I'll just say 0.36. Yeah. And so that change started last year. But yeah, occasionally, you know, you don't dummy it down, but you do just kind of say a couple of things and that may be good for the general public. Like in the Belmont this year, when Justify had run his half mile, I said, that's a little bit faster than American Pharoah ran 3 years ago, because that's the story.
Yeah.
And I try to follow all the NBC storylines. We have all these meetings, and you know, we're going to do a feature on this, a feature on that, and you want to get those features in your race call, and that's the only thing that's really different.
And that's exactly what I wondered about, whether you're kind of playing to the audience a little bit, and that makes sense. And the hundredths of a second makes complete sense, because as you say, that's what they see on the screen. So for racing fans, if you go to the fifths, it makes sense. But for folks who are more general, they probably are kind of scratching your head if you weren't given what they see on the screen. All right, I picked up some video, went to YouTube and picked up the NBC video that they put together of you in the booth with the Preakness, and I just have to ask you and have you explain Preakness. For those of us watching on TV, it was tough to follow the race, and for folks who don't remember, fog enshrouded, and you will see it on the video. Is this like the race caller's nightmare? And as we see from the video, you go from the binoculars to they go in front of you, then the binoculars go back, and then as they hit the turn, you go look at the TV. But as folks can see in the upper right-hand side of the screen, even the TV couldn't see the horses. So this had to be a nightmare scenario.
It was, but it wasn't, because they had enough shots that I could deal with it. And one of the things that was funny in the call, I used my iPad there, and it went dark on me right in the middle of the race, and I had to hit it while they were going on the backstretch to wake it up again. But you know what I did, I could only see from like the 16th pole, or right inside the 16th pole, to just past the wire. Everything else was completely fog enshrouded. So I just sort of, you know, followed the camera shots, and there was a time on the turn when there just wasn't anything, and I said, as they have run 3/4 of a mile in 1 minute 11.42 seconds as they go around the turn in the fog at Pimlico, buying for time.
Yeah.
until they showed up and there were Justify and Good Magic. I'm like, okay, they're still there, now we can go on with it. It was weird when they turned for home though, because it looked like Justify had completely put away Good Magic, and the view from behind, that's the only view we had, looked like he opened up a length and a half. When they came out of the fog, he was still right there. He was a neck back. I'm like, what happened? And all of a sudden they hit the wire, and boom, it's over.
Are there nerves for a situation like that, or is it just it's another scenario you have to deal with?
I told people the nerves went down because of that.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is no one else can see either.
Yeah,
so,
everybody understands.
So how bad could it be, right? So just you kind of have fun with it and just deal with a situation that's ahead of you. And one backstory. So normally I don't have two monitors in front of me for the Preakness. The reason we had them in the first place is because they put up these new concert stages and tents that block a good part of the area. And because of that, I couldn't see for a good eighth of a mile. And they're like, you're going to need these things. As it turns out, I needed them for the entire race.
Yeah,
So
as
it
you
was
mentioned
pretty
that,
cool.
we were down doing the handicapping show in the studio, and that week they would cut to a backstretch camera as they went down the backstretch.
Yeah, because it was blocked.
Yeah, you couldn't see any of that. You talked a little bit about Saratoga, and you and I were talking when we went on the air. Give us your feelings about Saratoga. Again, I always say it's more than just the racetrack and what's confined in the fence. Saratoga is so much fun because the town is so into it here.
It's fantastic. There just isn't any place better than this. I mean, you can't wait to get here, and you're so sad to leave. It's like Labor Day is around the corner. I'm like, oh no, we have to get out of here. It's just such a blast, and to be able to walk around the town and everybody's coming up and saying hi, and I mean, it's just there's just nothing like it. And the track itself full of life and people every single day, even if it's raining, which it did a lot this year, by the way, unfortunately. But it's still so great. And, I love it.
We'll talk a little bit about the obstacles of a race caller. Obviously, there are the normal races. So you have 7, 8, 9, 10 horses. But I'm curious on both sides of that equation. Are there obstacles if it's maybe a 3 or a 4 horse race, and obstacles if there's 15 or 16, or in the Kentucky Derby 20 horses?
Sure. Well, so here's the thing. The Kentucky Derby with 20 horses, it sounds like it's incredibly challenging. How do you keep track of 20 horses? They're famous. They're horses that, for months you've been preparing for this race. You know all of them like the back of your hand. So, yeah, it's tough to keep track of 20, but it's much tougher to keep track of 12 New York-bred maiden claimers that you haven't seen before. That is a challenge. And, yes, 3-horse fields are no fun to call. You have to filler, come up with stuff to say. I'll just say, what can I say to kill time while I say so-and-so's first, second, and third, because you got to say more than that. So, I don't like those super short fields.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day when we were, scratch reduced down, and you have a 2-turn race with only a few horses, you really struggle to keep it going all the way around the track.
My old friend Larry Letterman, he used to give baseball scores, during the race. So maybe, that's always being a Red Sox fan. Sorry for Yankee fans. I could do that, maybe.
And it seems like every race caller has at least 1 or 2 or 3 of those that they can tuck in their back pocket. You, of course, the wife race down at Monmouth.
Yeah, that was. I still hear about that every single day. It's been 8 years, okay?
You can YouTube it.
Yeah, it's fun.
But we had Miramati on the other day. He had the great one where he was doing all the announcers around the track, the imitations.
Oh, he's a riot.
Every announcer seems to have 1 or 2 of those tucked away. Talk a little bit about your background and how did you become an announcer?
I started out. It grew up in Maryland, like our previous guest, Gabby.
Yeah, you guys were saying a lot of Maryland Breds up here in New York.
Tons of Maryland Breds. Grew up in Maryland. My father was the sound guy. He put the sound system in at Timonium.
Oh.
So he took me to his job to learn that. Found out, and he kind of knew already that I was mechanically incompetent. That wasn't going to work. So instead, it was like, okay, love at first sight. This horse racing thing really is cool. And I wanted to do something in horse racing. So I started listening to all these different guys around the country. Back then it was, Marshall was still calling here, and you'd have Trevor out west and all these different guys. Tom was, back then Durkin was still calling the harness racing at the Meadowlands, and you'd listen to all these different guys, and it was fascinating. And I thought, maybe I could try to do this. So I just got a pair of binoculars, started practicing at the different press boxes until one day Chick Lang, the general manager at Pimlico, said, "Hey, why don't you join us and start calling one a day?" And so I started as the backup announcer and called my first race at a track that doesn't exist anymore, Bowie Racetrack in Maryland, 1985, and sort of went on from there.
You remember your first race call?
Yeah, Tiara's Flame was the horse, trained by now Hall of Famer King T. Leatherberry, ridden by Alberto Delgado. I remember I got through it and didn't mess up the call, but like the second or third call I made wasn't good. It was like a disaster. And the general manager at the time, I went to them and I said, it was Chick Lang Jr., was the marketing guy. I said, man, I really messed up that call. I feel so bad. If you guys think that I'm not ready for this, I totally understand it. And his response was, "You didn't say the F word, did you?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Well, then it was fine." so that was sound advice that I've stuck with throughout my career.
I think it's amazing that race number one was because and I don't know whether they've done it subsequently, but 2 or 3 years ago down in Maryland they had that media day where they cycled in local media people to call all the races, and it was funny because you could clearly tell. Oh, they've done a lot of studying because about the first eighth of a mile they were right on it, and then everything
hell broke loose. Well, they're actually running and changing positions now.
So just watching that and kind of putting myself in there, I can think. But as you say, and it seems all race callers the same thing. By the time you got into the first call, you'd probably called 1,000 races anyway into a tape recorder.
Right, exactly. I did at least 500. You know, and you get comfortable enough, but when that microphone goes on and you can hear yourself going out, it's like a little different. And it's now it's old hat, but at the same time it's every day, every race is different, and you have to be prepared for anything that could happen.
What is the memorization process you do? It was funny. I was down. We interviewed Pete Aiello this winter down at Gulfstream, and we were in his office, which is also the booth. And so we're kind of shooting an interview, and we finished the interview, and they're going to post. And I thought, oh, we kind of took your time. And he walked up to the window and called the race, and I said, boy, that was amazing. You didn't do it. And he said, just as you alluded a second ago with the Kentucky Derby, knowing the horse, he said, well, that was a race of horses that are here all the time. It's just claimers. I know all of these horses anyway.
Yeah.
But what is the memorization process pre-race?
Usually when they come onto the track, what I do is I have an iPad now, and I color in all the silks and have it right in front of me. So when they come onto the track, I just repeat the names over and over and make sure I know who every horse in the race is. And you have to do that as soon as they come onto the track at Saratoga, because then they disappear behind the trees. There's 17 of them. I counted the other day, and they all find ways to get behind them. So if you don't do it right away, you're in trouble. But yeah, some races, older horses that you're used to, you just know right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But the whole idea is when you're calling the race to not look down at your program or your iPad. The only time I look away is for the fraction, or if a name just escapes me, and it does happen. In fact, there's a horse called The Name Escapes Me. He ran at Belmont, so it does happen.
Any of those names that you rue the owners for?
Yeah, there's a few. I'm trying to. We had one the other day. I had Hubbada Bubbada Boom.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. But Kosciuszko, and then people named after the bridge.
Yeah.
And then half the people like, oh, you said that wrong. The other half's like, no, he said it right. No, he said it wrong. I'm like, I don't know how to say Kosciuszko. I just try to get it as close as I can.
The nice thing about doing the handicapper show here as opposed to you, or the handicapper show in the morning, when I get those, I can say the number 6 horse. I'm going with the 6 today.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
You can't, I'd like it. Only an announcer would know how many trees in the infield. One of the obstacles to the announcing game. What are some of the other obstacles at racetracks you've faced around the country?
Well, this booth at Saratoga is full of obstacles. There's a big white post right at the finish line for the steward stand right outside of my booth. So when they come to the wire, I got to lean a little bit to the left, and then into the clubhouse turn, you've got all the steel beams that hold up the building. We kind of need those, but they block my view of the race a little bit. And then when they're going around the turn, and of course the jockey silks is what you use to, get the identification of the horses. On the main track, when they're going around the turn, the outer turf rail goes right through the jockey silks. So you sort of have to, you still see, 25% of them, so it's close enough, and you kind of know who they are at that point anyway. But and then of course all the trees, there's an area right after the 6.5 furlong start where they just disappear. There's one thing after another in that booth. But it's fun. It's Saratoga, and who cares? It's all part of the fun and games.
You mentioned Durkin doing the harness races. Have you done other breeds? Have you ever done quarter horses?
I have. I called.
That seems like a real specialty.
Yeah, I haven't done it for many, many, many years, but I used to call the California Fairs.
Oh, okay.
Way back when, and we had quarter horses, Appaloosas. I was so mad though they didn't start mule racing until after I had left, because I always wanted to call one of those mule races. But I've called a few harness races over the years too, in Maryland, and I called a couple at the Maine fairs up in Cumberland.
Cumberland County Fair, I'm a fan.
Freiburg, I did a couple of guest calls up there. It was fun.
Cumberland County Fair, I will say this, the best fair food going. Usually you think of a fair like pizza in a cup or steak on a stick or something.
Yeah.
No, they've got lobster stew and clam rolls.
Those Maine fairs are great. They're fun.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Cumberland County is like late September, early October.
Yep.
If folks get a chance, go up and visit. You mentioned your binoculars, and I'm just curious, the technology. That's pretty much your technology, the binoculars. As you say, you have iPads, some TVs in front of you. But there's certainly been an upgrade in binoculars over the past few years. They've got the image stabilization if you choose to do that now. Do you have something like that? Do you have a favorite pair of binoculars that you've used and you stick to them?
Right. For years I used this big old pair of Zeiss 15 by 60 binoculars, but you had to mount them on a stand. And you move from track to track, and it's not ideal. So I have to give credit to Tom Durkin, because he was showing me he was using these Canon image stabilizers, and I ended up getting a pair of those. So they're 15 by 50, they're strong binoculars, but you can hold them in your hand, and they run on 2 AA batteries. You hit the button and the shake goes away, and so that keeps the image steady. I remember when the first year I called the Kentucky Derby, and they're going around the turn in the race, and like, I'm doing great, man. These binoculars are steady. Like, I thought I'd be really nervous, and it's no problem. I can see fine. Then I realized my legs were complete jello, and I was next to falling down. But I survived because of those binoculars, and I've been using them ever since. I'm on my 3rd pair right now. But you try to have the best equipment you could possibly have, because you need to see.
Yeah, as I say, that's your technology, those binoculars, and it has been a new technology over the past few years. Larry, as always, appreciate the visit. You're stopping by. I know it's a big week coming up, and we wish you good luck going forward, you and the NBC folks, with the Travers coming up on the weekend. It looks like it's going to be a nice race with that field that fits right in the comfort zone. It looks like maybe about 10 in there, so not too few, not too many. No. And looking forward to really a nice day all over with great stakes races. So we'll hear a lot from you coming up on Saturday.
It's going to be awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Larry Collmus, the announcer here at Saratoga and beyond. Again, big week coming up with the Travers and lots of stakes action on Saturday. But, of course, you hear Larry every day up here. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, owner Michael Imperial will join us. We'll talk some racing that has happened already here, because he's had a couple of nice New York bred stakes winners. That and much more right after this. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Monday morning, wrapping up another week, and I have to repeat it just because it is turned here at Saratoga. The weather is gorgeous. It's really a nice day here on the Saratoga backstretch. All right, happy to be joined now by owner Michael Imperio, a prominent owner up here in New York. We'll hit on a couple of nice stakes wins already at the meet. Michael, good morning.
Good morning. How's everything today?
Very good. Happy to have you join us. As I say, you've had a couple of nice wins in the state bred stakes up here, and we'll hit on those in just a moment. But before we do that, just wanted to introduce you to the audience a little bit. Doing some bio work last night. I always ask people, how'd you get into the game? But with you, clearly it was a family connection.
Yeah, my dad was a trainer, and I started walking hots at age 13, 14, 15. And basically, I went to college, when I went to work on Wall Street, and I came back in 2005, started owning some horses.
Your father, Dominic Imperio.
Yeah, Dominic,
yeah.
Yes.
And so you had the background there. And I also read commodities trader?
Yes.
Now, from my limited knowledge, is that I'm bidding on corn and asparagus or oil and gas? Or
I basically traded on metals, gold, platinum, and gasoline and crude oil.
And vegetables and that kind of thing, like corn, and that happens in Chicago, right? And do they still, with metals and gas, is it still a bunch of people in a pit, 50 cents on corn, or is it, with the technology, has it become much more sophisticated?
It went completely electronic in 2008 or 9. So now I sit home, my laptop is
okay. All right, that works.
No.
And so how long have you been an owner?
I started buying in 2005.
Okay. And what is your philosophy as an owner? Are you a guy that goes to the yearling sales? Are you a claiming guy?
Well, I used to buy some yearlings that never worked out. So I claim, and then I like 2-year-olds in training, where I had a partner. I like to get like 25 or 50% of maybe 6, and then hopefully 1 or 2 work out. Last year we had Lady Ivanka won the spin away, so that was the best one. The first grade one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's it. So that one worked out. Yeah, very good. I have a replay. This will work out nice just to stick these in right now. Replay of a couple, just within the past few days, a couple of nice stakes wins up here for you. And we'll first take a look at the Saratoga Dew from just the other day, and it will be Frosty Ann winning. She'll be the number 1 horse in here, wins by a chart margin of a half length over Landmine. This was a nice performance by Frosty Ann, coming out of an allowance win a little bit earlier in the meet. So she's got a couple of nice wins for you. Had to be happy with this, though.
Oh, yes. When we claimed her, she was running little sprints, and Rudy called me a week later and said, "You might think I'm crazy, but I think she's a long-distance horse." And I said, "You're the boss. You get on her every day." And since she's started running long, she's won 6 in a row for us.
And again, nice little stakes win here just a few days ago, and you own this with Rudy.
Yes, and then she won on Sunday. We ran her back in 5 days on this stake race because this race was supposed to be run on Monday and it didn't fill. So we got lucky. We ran Sunday and then Friday.
So that worked out very well. And the game plan, I assume, look for some of these state-bred stakes down at Belmont?
Yeah, probably give her 6 weeks off or so, and after the 2 hard races, and look for that.
But again, a nice. You say Rudy called you up. Is that the game plan? Are you looking through the past performances and watching the races and getting in touch with your trainers, or do they get in touch with you, or a combination of the two?
A combination. Like a lot of horses, I look at the numbers, and I always let Rudy final decision. just physically look at the horse and see what he thinks.
You say you look at the numbers. You're a figures guy. What do you look at?
The Ragusa sheets. So.
Let's take a look also just within the past few days, the Union Avenue. Another nice winner for you. This one trained by Jason Service, as you own it in partnership with Michael Dubb and others. But Benina Bianca, the number 4 horse here, again winning the Union Avenue. And she was coming out of a 5th place finish down at Delaware in a little stakes race, had won just prior to that down at Monmouth, so now 2 for the last 3. Took the blinkers off in this race, but again, nice little stakes win up here at Saratoga, so nice couple performances over the past few days.
Her biggest thing, she hates kickback in her face, so all they told Manny was just keep her outside. At Delaware, what happened, she was trapped on the inside and just shuffled all the way back.
And it worked out well on the move up here, so that's nice. I mean, talk a little bit about, because we're going to talk about the year-long racing in New York and how important it is to have the racing in the wintertime and support some of the stables that are here all year long. But just talk a little bit about a guy who races in New York all year long, how special it is to come up here to Saratoga and win some, not just races, but you won a couple of stakes races.
There's nothing like Saratoga. I would say it took me about 6 years to win my first race. And then about 4 years ago, we got lucky. The horse I had with Michael Dubb partnership, we won 9. And this year so far, we're on 4 for 8.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So a nice summer so far up here. You have anything out in the next couple of weeks you're looking forward to?
We got 2 2-year-olds, Chilling with Friends, first time out. She ran 3rd. She broke a little slow. She's running the 29th, and a first-time starter by Kitten Short, Alan Kitten, the 31st. We think both of them should win.
Very good. I like that. Let's also, as they say, talk a little bit about New York the rest of the year, because as a New York-based owner, you know how important it is, not just up here at Saratoga. We love to win at Saratoga. We love Saratoga racing. But, the wintertime in Aqueduct, certainly an important part of the racing calendar. Down at Capital OTB, we handicap in the afternoons all winter long and look at Aqueduct. And if you folks look at the handle figures nationally, it's really an important part of the landscape nationally as well. But a guy who's based in New York as a New York owner, the wintertime has to be important.
Yes. In the winter, like towards the end, we claimed her in December. And then she won up here in a stake race. You can find some good horses, but I like all year round because it keeps, everybody, the little guy, like you said, make a living. Because when they come to Saratoga, a lot of people don't have the stock to run up here. So you have nice purses, it keeps everybody in business. And if we have a good horse or a grass horse, we'll send them down to Ocala. My father's down there to give them the winter off.
Yeah, and that's what's important, as you say. So the racing is a little bit different up here. So you need that wintertime racing to kind of support everybody who then helps the programs up here as well. And so the year-round racing is a significant part of the New York calendar. Also wanted to touch on another nice part of New York racing, Belmont Child Care Association. Your wife is the president.
Yes, my wife Libby's the president. They're big fundraisers this Wednesday and at National. She told me 6:30 at National. And it's a daycare center, and they take the children at 3-4 weeks old. So open every day of the year. It's 4:30 in the morning. The workers drop their children off. They know they're safe. And then they take the children back when they go to school, teach them English, computer skills.
Yeah, we've had Michael Dubb in here, one of the founders of the BCCA in the past. It's a great racetrack-related organization, as you say. The backbone of the backstretch is the backstretch workers, and to have a place to take their children, and not only take the children and give them daycare, but as you say, the educational aspect as well. And their big fundraiser is up here every year, and it comes up on Wednesday at Saratoga National. And your wife was sitting in the cart right off the set, and we were talking before. Some nice auction items coming up as well. A Justify halter, boots signed by Mike Smith, part of the auction coming up on Wednesday.
Yes, Bob Baffert's always been very good to us. He gave us American Pharaoh's 2-year-old halter. He gave us Justify's 2-year-old halter, and a couple of autographed things, Mike Smith. I think we hope to get $10,000 for it to help the children. So if anybody can help, bid on that item.
Yeah, it's and again, I've been to the BCCA event, and it's a nice casual event typically, and highly recommended. It's coming up on Wednesday. type in Google Belmont Child Care Association. You'll get to their website. You can buy tickets that way. As I say, it's highly recommended and a great organization. I read just a couple weeks ago, Michael Dubb is thinking about putting one here for the backstretch workers as well.
They're trying to find the land and get it set up.
Which is a great idea.
We've been trying a few years. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah, and I know the New York Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association, a big proponent of helping out the backstretch workers in any way possible, because again, they are kind of the backbone of the industry. Michael, appreciate the visit this morning and some of the conversation. And certainly congratulations on the 2 stakes wins, but also good luck going forward.
All right, thank you very much.
Michael Imperio, owner up here at Saratoga, again, with a couple of nice wins just in the past few days in stakes races up here at Saratoga. All right, we'll take a break. I have a replay coming up towards the end of the program here that I wanted to show before we ended the week, so stay tuned. That'll come up right after this.
Racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
As an owner, I love the Breeders' Cup Win in Your In series.
To win one of these challenge series is a way that we kind of map out our schedule throughout the year with our horses.
If you win one of the challenge races, you have a very good horse.
The King George, which is our Win in Your In race, provides the top middle distance horse in Europe. We saw Highland Reel running both races.
We know when we show up at the Breeders' Cup, we've got the world to beat, not just everybody in the United States. Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. And it's Racing Across America, but we're going to go across the ocean. It is often the case here at Saratoga that we get so clued into Saratoga that we miss some of the racing, not only in the other parts of the country, Del Mar and Arlington. We've all now watched the replay of the Million and the Pacific Classic this weekend. I showed that on yesterday's show. But it's easy for stuff to float under the radar when we're up here at Saratoga. But I did want to show Winx this weekend down in Australia. Winx, she's a phenomenal racehorse. She was going for her 26th consecutive win this weekend down there. That was going to surpass the Great Black Caviar. She was going for her 3rd win in the Warwick Stakes, which has since been named the Winx Stakes. So she was going for a win in the race named after her. That was this weekend down there. She's going to be the number 10 horse, sitting in the back of the pack early in a blue and white silk. She'll pick her up, swings wide late, and makes a nice late run. Number 10 Winx in the Warwick Stakes, formerly the Warwick Stakes, now the Winx Stakes. This is this weekend at Royal Randwick down in Australia. Watch, come back in a minute.
Go in the Winx Stakes, and they're off and racing. Well, she's only jumped out fairly. Winx is going to settle in the second half of the field, and Cabeza de Vaca jump well with Religify, and Oriental Runner is speeding forward, taking the lead. Then Classic Uniform, Invictus Prince, Kementari's one off the fence, D'Argento course 3 deep. Now Winx is in a trailing position. She's 2 behind Kementari early stages. Further back to Unforgotten, Ace High, and the stale Libran is last. Oriental Runner, the long odds leader of the field, with Cabeza de Vaca a neck away in second. Then Religify and Classic Uniform. D'Argento goes to 5th on the outside of Invictus Prince. Then Kementari and Winx, they're racing together. Nothing between the pair, with Winx on the outside of Kementari taking closer order. Then Unforgotten, Ace High, and Libran is last. They're going quick up front. Oriental Runner and Cabeza de Vaca in the very windy conditions. From Religify, Classic Uniform, D'Argento, and here they come, getting to the outside, Winx and Kementari's trying to stick with her, although she dropped him now. Cabeza de Vaca takes the lead, 200 metres to run, but here she comes, Winx right down the outside, powering away from them, Invictus Prince, D'Argento and Kementari, but how soft for Winx. There's 26 in a row for the champ. Wins the race named in her honour, beats Invictus Prince, D'Argento, Kementari, then Unforgotten, Cabeza de Vaca, Religify, Libran, Classic Uniform, Ace High, and Oriental Runner was only beaten a few lengths in last position.
Wow. I mean, you think at the 300 meters, there is no way, and in fact, the jockey was quoted after the race as saying something to the effect of a little bit concerned, but once she got straightened out, it floated wide, sitting way back there. Once she get set down, made it look easy in the last 200 meters of the race. So again, that was consecutive win number 26, passes Black Caviar, just really impressive. 19 Group 1 wins, 36 start, 30 wins overall. That was her 3rd win in that race. 7-year-old mare, and just phenomenal. She's aiming later this year for the Cox Plate again, a race she has won 3 times. And if you're not familiar, we all know the Melbourne Cup, but the Cox Plate is probably really, as far as racing, more prestigious. And she's won it 3 times already and aims for it again this year. Winx, a phenomenon down under. And again, it's easy for races to kind of float under the radar when we're up here at Saratoga, but I did want to take the opportunity to show that one. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America, Monday morning here live from the Saratoga backstretch. Appreciate your participation this morning. Don't forget, come on up here this afternoon. Enjoy the racing on a very, very nice day here at Saratoga. Low rollers contest, again, lower level of the carousel. You can sign up, $40, $10 into the prize pool. Play with $30 throughout the afternoon and keep whatever you make with your contest card. But if you're up in the top 5, you also get a nice chunk of that prize pool as well. Highly recommended up here. I believe there's also a knockout challenge via Capital OTB today too. Check the website for promos and events, capitalotb.com. Also, you can pick up the Handicappers Report sheet there as well. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday morning. Handicappers Report at 9, Racing Across America at 10 as we kick off Travers Week. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. Cash a lot of tickets. See you back here Wednesday morning.
You've been watching Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America has been brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. Pannell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. And the new Capital OTB mobile app. Wager anytime, anywhere. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play.